Hello internet world, and welcome to a new video on the Geekanoids channel. Today's video is the start of a very brand new series. If you watched my video a couple of weeks ago, you'll have learnt that I cancelled Monday Madness and I asked you, the viewers, to suggest something for a new series, and I always listen. So today is the start of Question of the Day, where I take the very best question I receive from you and talk about it a bit more in depth. I used to do Q&A sessions where I answer multiple questions within one video, and I still will do those from time to time, but sometimes a question deserves a much more lengthy and more in-depth answer and discussion. And I think it's a great way to also interact with you, because if you've got anything to say on today's topic, then of course you can chime in either in the live chat or of course in the comment section after this goes on the main channel. Now this is a live video, so if you have got any questions or comments at all, I will take a few more little questions later on in the video. Put them in the live chat. You can also use the super chat if you want to highlight them, and if you're watching this after the live event, don't forget to hit that like button. Also subscribe to the channel, and if you've got a question that you want me to consider for next week's video, then please also leave that in the comment section as well. So without further ado, let's take a look at today's question. Now this question comes from Ryan Barkley. Ryan is a long-term viewer, so big thank you to Ryan for sending in this question. The question is on your screen now. Ryan says, "Hey Dave, my question is, are free rewards via an app required to get us to stop using our phones? I recently saw an app that offers things like free coffee for points that users gain via no interaction with their phone or smartphone for a certain period of time. Do you think this is a good idea? Should we be rewarded for such a thing? Have a great day." That is an amazing question. Very good question, Ryan. And I know exactly what you're on about. And indeed, not just apps offering rewards, but a lot of companies nowadays, a lot of tech companies are being challenged to give their response and build in features into their products to try and minimize this sort of technology and social media addiction that we're all facing nowadays. We only need to walk down the street, have a meal in a restaurant, and you can see hundreds of people around you all not interacting with each other and just walking along like this, interacting with their phones. And it is quite worrying. I'll talk to you a little bit about my experience with social media addiction in a short while, but I want to look back in answer to this question quite a way back actually. Before I do so, because this is a live broadcast, I must do this. The first 4 of you in the live chat get a shout out. We have got Darren Bird, Aaron Stoy, Best Tech LJL, and Darren Bird coming in again saying, "I think that's absolute rubbish." Well, let's talk about it. So I want to talk to you about sort of years and years ago, like really way back in time, because my thought process goes to how things have repeated itself. What they often say, history repeats itself. In the olden days, where you didn't have all this processed food, people had to eat just sort of homegrown food and meats. So it might have been sort of a meat, fish, vegetables, potatoes, that sort of thing. A lot more fresh produce. And then over time, we were introduced to fast foods and processed foods. And although this was convenient, so it had that convenience factor, it did lead to other problems, including health problems. So then we were advised to eat things in moderation, take more exercise. Medicines were introduced to combat some of the things that probably were contributed to by processed foods. And then move forwards to another era where infections or sort of ailments were treated with medicines, and then the likes of antibiotics. And we've all heard about over prescribing of antibiotics. So then the retraining starts again. So doctors are advised not to prescribe antibiotics unnecessarily, because we're building up a resistance to antibiotics. Bear with me here, bear with me. I'll get to the technology bit in a moment. We've also been told about global warming, aerosols and the CFCs that they emit. and then we went through this education process again. So we're given the convenience, and then we're having to sort of figure out a new solution for the problem that introduces. So we were educated again. And then with the advent of technology, we got things like computers, smartphones, of course, which is the main subject of today's video, and how we're really addicted to interacting with our devices so much, and it's not done in moderation. And now we're having to deal with that. So the education starts again, and that brings us right forward to today's question, is that it's all happening again. People will, and I have experienced this, let's get on to my actual experience with this. I have sat in a restaurant and I have looked around and I've seen tables with a couple facing each other and they're staring into their phones the whole time, not interacting with each other, eating their meal, looking at their phones. I've seen a family sitting at a restaurant and the kids and the parents all on their phones. I've seen people when I'm walking through the park, and I'm walking through the park taking in my surroundings, and I've seen people walking past me almost bumping into each other, all on their smartphones all the time, on their smartphones, checking their social media, texting. None of them really talking on their smartphones, none of them really acknowledging somebody who's walking past them and saying good morning to them, all on their smartphones, more than likely checking social media. And for me personally, I think that is a big shame. My experience with social media, time management, and my addiction to technology is that I make it sort of reside within one or two places, and then whilst I'm out and about, especially when I'm driving, I mean, don't get me on the subject of people using their smartphones whilst they're driving, but whilst I'm driving, my smartphone remains in my pocket. Whilst I'm at a meal, my smartphone remains in my pocket. When I go and visit relatives, if I go round to see my mum, for example, my smartphone remains in my pocket. And then I have certain times of the day where, because of the job I do, so mine isn't necessarily social media addiction, but because I publicise things that I do online on social media, and I'm a social media influencer and I'm a content creator, my phone comes out for certain tasks throughout the day. And of course I still get a personal enjoyment from looking through the likes of something like Instagram, but it's at certain times and very restricted, in the sense of I maybe do it for maybe 10 minutes max, and then the phone goes back in the pocket, and the rest of the time I'm communicating to you either via videos, and then in my own personal life I'm communicating to people by either going to see them and interacting with them socially, or by ringing them up, so actually calling them, hearing a voice on the other end of a smartphone, and actually interacting that way. Now, I'm not saying social media is all bad, but everything, including what we eat, which is where I started off this video, including what we eat, should be done in moderation. Otherwise it becomes unhealthy, and the same applies to our addiction to technology and social media. And if apps can encourage that, so if apps can reward us with a cup of coffee, whatever it may be, with points that we can then exchange for something like physical goods, if they can reward us in exchange for sort of taking that break from social media, then I think it's a good thing. And we've also heard about the likes of Apple and other technology companies being encouraged to build in controls into their devices to sort of help battle this sort of addiction that people have to devices, you know, to their smartphone primarily. And I think if they take responsibility for it a little bit as well, I mean, it's not their fault, but they put the tools in our hands. If they can build in things and restrictions that we can utilise to lessen this addiction, then I think it is a very good thing, and I think it's a very worthy topic to talk about, and it is something that definitely needs to be tackled, and it's only something that can be tackled by education. Now, I'm not going to preach to you what to do, I'm not here to do that, but what I will say is that, going back to this everything in moderation, is if you can take time out from your technology. I spent a week with just a normal regular sort of mobile phone, not a smartphone, and it really opened my eyes. It gave me so much time back, and that's even with me having my own controls in place. So if you can do that, if you can limit your exposure to this technology and still enjoy it when you partake, then I think it will enrich your lives a great amount, a really big amount. So anyway, let's take a look inside the live chat and just see what you've got to say on the subject. Darren Bird says, if people are stuck to their phones, then what's going on? What has society done to us? Do we really need apps to tell us not to use phones? Come on. Well, I can get where you're coming from, Darren. You know, we shouldn't need to be told. We should be able to have that self-control. But some people do need that barrier, and maybe the answer isn't apps. Maybe the answer is controls built in by the manufacturer, much like we get parental controls. Maybe we can have controls that limit our children's exposure to social media. Maybe on a timer, for example, so they don't get too addicted too fast. Maybe that's a way forwards. But if apps can give some encouragement, I mean, I'm sitting here, look, you know, I'm sitting here with a fitness tracker on. This is to encourage me to get up out of my seat, take a break from my editing, and to actually sort of take that necessary break and get some activity. So I use this as as sort of my encouragement, my motivation to get up and get out and sort of get a bit fitter. So maybe we need something that reminds us, hey, switch off of social media and take a break. I saw a program just an hour ago. I think it's called High Maintenance, and it was about somebody doing just that. They actually signed up to a service. I don't know whether it was real or not, but they signed up to a service that would block them out of things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Until they did a restart on their computer. So for their session that they were sitting in, they had to concentrate on whatever they were doing and not partake in social media. Maybe that would help as well. There are lots of things that we can do. It's a really important discussion. Shivram Day says that's a good question, which it certainly is. Also, we have got Duck Vu Hong saying, I think it's not a good thing that we need apps to be social in life. The answer is upbringing. That is it's very controversial what you've said, but yeah, it sort of rings true. If as parents we don't expose our children too early to this technology, which unfortunately I think is pretty much being done by so many, you know, big percentage of the population do expose their children very early to technology. Even I was guilty of doing that with my children. So maybe it is a thing where if you bring your children up to respect the technology around them and to still put it away and interact. I mean, we do that with our children, although they're grown up now. When we're having a family meal or an outing, we always encourage the smart devices to go away, just so that we talk to each other. And even so much as the dining table is still a central part of our family life, where we have a dining room with a table in it, and we actually sit up to the table and actually sit and eat together. That is something that's still a regular occurrence for us, and I think it's things like that we should continue to encourage. Certainly interacting through an app is not the way to go. Darren Bird says, good question though, more debate is needed and would like to see other people's views. And you know, I encourage that. If you're watching this video after the live broadcast, please do let me know what you think in response to this question from Ryan. Do you think it's necessary to have apps to encourage people away from social media? And really, just your viewpoint, please do put that down in the comments section below. Insanity is sanity. Is there an app that will reward me for remembering to breathe? Well, it's funny you should say that as well. This particular smartwatch has a relax app on it where it actually encourages you to sit down, take a moment, and actually it will vibrate and it will encourage you to breathe properly at a very slow pace and sort of focus on your breathing. And yes, there are apps that encourage you to relax or train you to relax and breathe properly. I know that's not exactly what you were meaning. You were, you know, possibly saying, is there an app that will actually just show me how to breathe? Well, we all know how to breathe, but to breathe and relax and to maybe meditate a little bit and take a moment for ourselves, there are apps for that as well. So again, very good question. But anyway, that is pretty much it for this particular broadcast. This has been the very first question of the day. You asked for this and I responded. And I think it's going to be a very, very popular series because we do this once a week and answer the very best question. If you want your question to be considered for next week's video, very important. So if you want your question to possibly be answered and discussed at great length in next week's video, then please do leave me your questions for consideration in the comments section below. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch my videos and to interact with me on the Geekanoids channel. Thank you so much. You are all awesome. Please do subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you all in another video very soon.